Hi, Scott Sambucci here. I've got another couple thoughts I wanted to share. I got a note in my inbox just a couple minutes ago, and it was a question that said, what do most startups or salesmen do wrong when they're trying to develop a sales process? What do they mess up the most when they're trying to close the sale? I'd say that the biggest mistake that people make is that they don't take responsibility for the sales process, or more importantly, you can call this taking leadership of the sales process. So just yesterday, I was working with a very senior salesperson who was working through a relationship that he's had with an account for quite some time. There's a little bit of business with them, but there's huge amounts of growth opportunity with them. And so he's finally worked his way through the organization, and he's found a person within the company that really is going to be championing his particular product. And in preparation for presenting the service that they're selling, that he's selling through this product champion, the product champion is going to put together a slide deck and then present that to senior management. And so the three of us collaborated and we talked through what would go into that presentation and what would ultimately be required from senior management in order to say, yep, you know what, you've got all the information, you've done your research, we're going to allocate the budget for you to buy this service. And what was interesting is that the prospect, the more we talked through it, he actually started to kind of move away from the sale in the sense that he said, well, geez, you know, it would be really great if we could just do a sample first. So why don't we do a trial run? And once we do the trial run, then we'll have some proof of concept, and then we can add that to the slide deck. And this is where I thought the salesperson did an outstanding job of reeling the prospect back in. And he just asked this very simple question. And this question that he asked was this: is the trial program part of the critical path for getting approval? And what he meant by that was, is it an absolute necessity for senior management to see a trial in action, or is there some other way that we can skirt through that? Because the trial, you know, that could be something that could take a few weeks to implement, and then you get the data back. It's already the end of October. Now, by the time you get the data back, you're moving into the end of November. It's Thanksgiving. Then all of a sudden comes Christmas, end of the year. The budget that may have been allocated for this year is now gone. And so, just by simply asking that question, is it absolutely necessary? And asking the question in a soft way, using that term critical path, I thought was a very effective way from a manager's perspective to say, if I'm going to be presenting this to my senior management, is this going to be an absolute necessity? Is it critical for them to get approval? And it turns out, as the more we talked about it, that the prospect that we talked with said, you know, actually, I don't really think it's absolutely necessary. If though you had maybe some sample files or some sample examples or case studies that I can include in the presentation, I think that gives us all the meat that we need in order to get the approval that we're looking for. And so it was a really interesting way for this salesperson, this account manager, to take leadership and not get pushed inadvertently, get pushed to the side or get bullied by the client. And I use that word bully not in a negative way, but just when you give up control and you allow the client um, to simply dictate the rules and the process, when in fact some of the process that they are requesting are not necessary, then you are going to run the risk of losing the sale. And so I wanted to just express that simple thought that I had, is that as a mistake that I see a lot of people make, the one biggest mistake I think is just not taking control and sort of being fearful that if they say no to the client, or if the client makes a suggestion, that they're taking that as gospel and not necessarily as a suggestion. So in this case, the prospect was just really just making a suggestion that to really strengthen the case and having a trial would be best. And then after we collaborated and talked through it, said, geez, maybe we don't actually need a full trial. All we need maybe is just some case study that we can draw up really quickly, include that in the presentation. We're achieving the same end. So great example of taking sales leadership and also asking the right question and asking the right question in the right way. So hope that's helpful.